Okay, so here our next question is, what was the total time the ball spent in the air? We can calculate this. So let me get a pen here. And basically what we have the ground, the player threw the ball, it went up and then back down, right? That should be a nice perfect arc. Here at the center of the arc, right here, the ball is traveling upward at 0 meters per second. That's its velocity. It's thrown up in this y component with some number. Well, we know that number. We calculated it. It's 10.4 meters per second. So we know that this y component is 10.4 meters per second. Well, if I were to throw this ball straight up and it were to come straight back down, that would be the exact same time if I were to throw it here and do the arc. The amount of time it stays in the air is exactly the same. So because of that, I can use the formula. Acceleration is equal to velocity final minus velocity initial divided by gravity. Or, I'm sorry, divided by time. Divided by time. I'm looking for time, so I'm going to solve for time. So I'm going to multiply both sides by t and divide both sides by a. And that will give me time is equal to velocity final. Let me redraw that. Time is equal to velocity final minus velocity initial. And all of that is divided by acceleration. Our velocity final is, if I were to throw this ball straight up, it would be right here. It would be hanging in the air right there with no velocity at all. So time is equal to 0 meters per second minus my velocity initial, that is this velocity here that I gave it when I threw it up. So 10.4 meters per second. And I'm going to divide that by an acceleration. Well, the only acceleration once it leaves my hand is gravity. Gravity's pulling the ball downward. And so that's going to be a negative 9.8 meters per second squared. Okay. This cancels because it's 0. And my meters cancel. And one of my seconds cancels on the, seconds on the top cancels, and one of my seconds on the bottom cancels. So that leaves me with seconds on the top side, and all I need to do is the math. So let's get our calculator up here. And 10.4 divided by 9.8. Whoops. Let's try that again. 10.4 divided by 9.8. Because they're both negatives, the negatives cancel. And I end up with 1.06 seconds. Well, that is the time for it to just go up. I also need the time for it to come back down, which is going to be that same number, but it's going to be, so I'm adding those two numbers, so I multiply them, and that's going to give me, what, 2.12 seconds? Let's double check my math there. That times 2, 1.12 seconds. Yep. And so this right here is the amount of time that the ball would have spent in the air.